Okay, this is try two. It has been a very interesting day today. Today we are getting together for our 48th consecutive day of our Corona confinement retreat. And how is your day going? I haven't looked, but I'm wondering if something out there in the universe has gone retrograde, because my day has not been going as planned, And sometimes it's those days that you get up and you go, this is going to be great. I got a head start. I'm going to do my jazzercise later this afternoon, so I'm going to jump right into my little checklist. I've got that checklist over there on the wall, which tells me everything that I want to get done in a day. So I sat down, I did my prayer time, I checked off, I did some work on my book, and I was chugging along. Now, there were a few things on my to-do list that had 2 dots by it, and that meant I skipped it for 2 days. So I had to get serious. And one of them was Photoshop, because I've been working very hard to learn it. And I've really been having a challenge, to the point I say to myself, do I really want to learn this? But I really do want to learn it. So I just took a breath and said, okay, I finally had to call customer support, technical support. For the next 3 hours, I was talking, of course, to someone in India, and I wasn't talking, we were chatting. And, sometimes people that are very technically adept don't understand that other people kind of need baby steps. And so he would tell me to tab to this and put in that and do the app's data, and I'm like, yeah. Huh? I say, forgive me, I don't understand what you're talking about. And it's hard. I'm not dumb. I'm just not technically, educated in what he knows. I can pick things up, but I'll tell you. So, but it was perfect. You want to know why? Today, we're talking about love. And love, one of the first things it says, well, let me see. Oh my goodness, did I mark the page? I don't know if I marked the page. Let me just see. Yeah. Okay. 1 Corinthians 13, verse 4. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. Now, that was written right for me, because especially with customer service, a job that I did for many years and did it well, but before I did that, when I knew less about it, I could be a pretty mean person on the other end of the phone. And if it were 30 years ago, I would have been screaming at that man on the other end of the line. But what I had to learn is love is patient, love is kind, and it's not his fault I don't know, how to do this program. And in the end, after 3 hours of working with him, the bottom line is he told me to uninstall Photoshop and reinstall it. And I finished that right before I started visiting with you today, so I don't even know how it worked. Now, I would say, actually, it's a good sign that I came through this. I took a deep breath. I didn't yell at the guy. I learned something, and I was also able to tell him that I don't understand Yeah, I don't understand. Can you please repeat that? And I'll bet he appreciated it too, because if it's anything like it was when I was working at that bank those many years ago, he probably gets yelled at plenty. When we don't understand anything, it's not a reason not to be kind and to blame the other person because we don't know it. I mean, if they're yelling at us, telling us we're stupid because we don't know, that's another story. Still not an excuse. Still not an excuse. So, because we're talking about love today, it's very important that we understand love is not what we think it is. In the human concept, love is romance, it's sex, it's doing things to please me. It's, because let's face it, one of the reasons we love someone is because they, or we believe they, make us happy. So what kind of that love is that love about? It's about me. It's not about you. It's about me. But we all want to love, and we will all want to be loved. The first mistake we made is thinking that love is an emotion. Now, an emotion is a human experience. The kind of love we're talking about is principle. And Charles Fillmore called it the great attracting power that holds all of creation together. You don't have to even know a person to love them. And when we realize that emotion is energy in motion, now we see that we can either make that personally driven or we can make that driven by our higher consciousness. Today, I was loving that customer service, that tech agent on the phone. I was loving him with patience, with kindness, because it doesn't matter that I've been an ordained minister for 30 years or any of that stuff. It doesn't matter if I'm not kind. It's just like what the scripture says. Bible's pretty doggone brilliant. I want to draw you a picture because it's the way I understand things better. So give me a second, because out by drawing the 4 quadrants of consciousness that we've talked about before. So we've got intuitive. Oh shoot, this is going to be backwards for you till I flip it onto YouTube, but you'll get it. Sensing, thought, and emotion. Okay, so intuitive, sensing, thought, and emotion. This is higher consciousness. This is lower consciousness. We have been taught that love is an emotion. It's a feeling, and it's a good feeling. And if the person we love is not making us feel good all the time, then it's not love, right? Wrong. Love is more like forgiveness. It's what we need. And it's interesting because over the decades, we have put more and more focus on what we love or what we want for love. And if we're not happy every minute, then something's wrong. I am not going to say that that no one should ever get divorced. Ideally, they wouldn't, because they'd be so happy in their marriage, it wouldn't be needed. But when there's a good number of people that actually human consciousness has shifted over time, that the value of a relationship has diminished, the value of marriage has diminished. That when we say a vow, it's not like it says in Pirates of the Caribbean, a suggestion, a guideline. A vow means I mean it, And as a matter of fact, there's a word that comes before vow that a lot of people don't like at all. And that word is solemn. Now, in the peace song, which doesn't matter what church you go to, at least most Christian churches sing the peace song and say, I make my solemn vow. Yeah? And that doesn't mean it's somber. I think people got, solemn confused with somber. And they don't want to make this somber vow. You make a solemn vow. A solemn vow means I'm saying it and I mean it. The love that Christopher Reeve and his wife had was that kind of love. For those who don't remember or never knew, Christopher Reeve was the actor who played Superman. He had an accident riding his horse. The horse threw him at a jump. He landed on his head and broke his neck and became paralyzed. At one point, he told his wife, let me die. Let me die. And she said, no, you're alive. That's got to be, the plan. Then he said, divorce me. And she said, no. And he said, why not? You're living this life of, you're having to take care of me. I can't do anything for myself. And she said, I made a promise. And a promise is a promise. That's what love is. Love is being there for someone, whether there's anything in it for you or not. If you're a parent and there is no limit to the love for your children. It doesn't matter what they do. They can make you absolute berserk, but we love them. That's because it's that spiritual love. It's that unconditional love. See, and that's how we are meant to love. That's what keeps us together. So what's that got to do with metaphysics and why it's helping me in my journey through these days and how it can help you? Think about the things that it says love is not. Let's go back and take a look at that. Let's see. It says, it does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. Have you been irritable or wanting things your way? Well, if you understand the principles of love, the spiritual principles, you can stop that. Most people are irritable. That's a negative emotion. Anger, jealousy, unforgiveness. Those are all negative emotions. They don't feel good. They feel like you've been slimed. So how do you stop not feeling good? By learning to love. By learning to take a deep breath and remembering who you are. So we're going to kind of go back here, but I'm going to draw a new picture. And that picture is, I'm not the artist in the family, okay? This is you and me, okay? Now this line is not a hat. The lower part is our human thinking, and then we got a filter right here, okay? And what happens is all the good feelings that come from the universe, all the guidance and everything comes through a filter. And so over time, depending on how much input we get, it comes not just from spirit, but it comes from what we call the world. It comes from human consciousness. See the amount of beneath that line? That is how much input we get from the world that tells us if that we're not good enough, we're not pretty enough, we can't have love, someone has to love us more, we're not worthy. It tells us all those things. It tells us we need to have wonderful clothes, and it tells us not that clothes are bad. We all wear them. But this is thinking, this is the part of thinking that sex is love. Sex isn't bad or none of us would be here, okay? But it's not love. And that term that actually abuses love almost every time it's said is making love. We made love. Not all sex is making love. That's another thing that's been diminished over time as we kind of took the beautiful sacredness of it and contaminated it with human thought, with human feeling, okay? So it's kind of like taking chocolate and putting sand in it. You know, it's just, it's good at the moment, then afterwards you don't feel so good. I hope I explained that pretty good. Chocolate's how I explain these things these days. Everything comes down to chocolate. So, if you want to have a better experience of the principle, not the emotion, but the principle of love, then you want to decrease the amount of input or the value you put to the input we get in movies, television, radio, and you want to increase the input we get from divine mind. Let's think about some other things we love. How about animals? Do we love animals? Most people love animals. They're like our creative brothers and sisters. So when we reach out to them, when we see one, what about that feeling? Now this is not so much an emotion because it's always good. See, this in real love, universal love always feels good. Romance and, the other jealousy and all that stuff, that kind of love doesn't feel good. But unconditional love feels good. Now, the reason that it's really important right now is because if you are cooped up with with family who you love, but they're getting on your nerves, you're not practicing the principle of love. What do you have to do? Remind yourself. Deep breath. Take your Bible if you need to, dust it off. Find 1 Corinthians. Let me get the verses for you exact so I can give them to you. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 through 8. 4 through 8. And you know what the last one says? Love never ends. Infatuation ends. Romance ends. But love never ends. People that are in long-lasting relationships and friendships as well will tell you that the bloom may be off the rose, but it's still every bit as sweet to them. Make these days easier to get through and to enjoy by practicing not the emotion of love, but the principle of love. Do you know, even food represents love for us? It's not what we think it is. It's not the greasiness of the potato chips or the rich creaminess of macaroni and cheese or that delectable light sweetness of chocolate. What really, and this is something, if you're trying to watch your weight, this is something you want to pay a lot of attention to, because in our time alone with the stress, a lot of us want to eat comfort food. Anybody want comfort food? Why? Not because of the taste, but because of the memories that are attached to the taste. I have a dear one in my life who had a big problem with food. And it was always, I would watch what she ate, and it was always the same thing. It was party foods. And that's when it hit me that what she was doing was eating memories. She was ingesting the taste of the food, but remembering the times when life was happy. Because for her, life was not real happy at the time. Now, she actually had surgery and lost all the weight. But what she didn't lose is the connection to the food and the good times. So you may be tempted. Do you know you can't get flour now? Not because there's a flour shortage because they're not producing it, but because so many people are baking. Why are they baking? Oh, what did they used to say? Pillsbury. Nothing says lovin' like something from the oven, and Pillsbury says it best. Well, if you think about that, if you think about you can't really eat love, you can enjoy logical proportions of whatever you want. But remember, that is a physical memory of love. So what do you want to do to get past that need for it? Love the ones you're with. Love the ones you're with. Love the ones who are with you. Love how the best you can, whether it's by video chat, letters, telephone calls, whatever it is. Look through the photo albums. Feed your body and soul on the unconditional principle of love. And get rid of the negative things that are causing pain and suffering. Sometimes we have to let go of those relationships that are not healthy. And I invite you to be strong in doing that. And you know what? If you let go of a negative relationship, you don't have to have a fight. Just speak your truth with love. I heard something today. Let me see if I can find it because I made a note because I wanted to share it with you. Oh, and I don't know what I did with it. Oh, please tell me. It's gone. Ah, shoot. Well, it said something along the lines of, oh yeah, to those who matter, it won't mind. To those who mind, it won't matter. So what it's basically saying, if you're afraid of what someone will, hang on a minute, I gotta hit my little button here. The battery's running out. So you can speak your truth with love. You don't have to fight. You can say whatever you need to say if you say it with truth and kindness. And hang on to the good. And like my landlady used to say when we were little kids, the landlady would say, be nice, kids. Don't fight. Nothing is better than love. With that, I'm going to let you go to your day. I hope it is blessed and happy. And I thank you so much for spending this time with me. Bye-bye.